Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live or listening to replay. Always appreciate you all. Just been doing many episodes. We're actually on 126th episode. And just appreciate you all for tuning in live or once again listening to replay. It's always a pleasure. So thank you all. Today is Tuesday. Today on episode 126, we're going to be going over what going private really looks like. Most of our listeners are always inquiring and talking about going private, and so we're definitely going to cover that just this evening or wherever you are in the world, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we traditionally just based off East Coast time. Thank you, Daniel Turner. Appreciate you as well. And for the rest of you all that are tuning in live, feel free to type into the chat. We do appreciate you all for typing into the chat and moving forward with us today. So just want to thank all the long-time listeners. Thanks, King Khan, for tuning in. Just want to take the time out to thank the long-time listeners. Everybody. We've been doing the podcast now for about 2 years, and just really appreciate everyone that's ever really tuned in, or anyone that goes back and listens to the replay. Anybody that shares the content. Always just want to share many thanks and many appreciation for you all and what you all have done. The vault doesn't really go through traditional means of growth. It actually is pure word of mouth. So just always appreciative for everyone that does send out shout outs and refers people to listen to the vault, get consultations, people to enroll in trustee training. We always appreciate all of you all for doing that. That is a big blessing, not just for us, but for you all as well. And that's what we're going to cover tonight. So, really excited about that, what going private really looks like. And so, we're going to start out with the news as we always do. So, we got some statistics in for you all. You all can go look this up. You guys can Google wealth manager to millennials. These three steps. And so they say most millennials, 62%, and I'll cite these sources. Or you can Google these as well. 62% of them says they're living paycheck to paycheck, and only 38% of them feel financially stable. Uh, you all can go look that up. One of the things that they say they're having a challenging time is paying themselves first. They feel like they're overwhelmed with bills. And then as well, they're having a hard time automating their savings. That's a big deal. They're having a really big hard time in the millennial category to automate the savings, and then they feel very, very clueless. They say 1 or 2% of them actually feels confident in investing the actual savings that they have. So that's even more interesting. So you all can go Google millennials and three things that they are actually looking into, or some issues that they may be having. If you're not in the millennial category, then obviously it would be more, or your generation Z, Y, X, whatever it is. Uh, Actually, Daniel, you can just stay on YouTube. This is where all the content is at, or you can go to welcometothevault.com. Thank you, Marlene, for tuning in live. So guess what? Fidelity is really in love with Bitcoin, and the Texas office has filed with the crypto ASIC. You all can look into that. That's an office in actually Texas. Texas actually kicked out a company. It was a crypto company last year. They kicked out 2018. We think they kicked out. Who is that? They kicked out USI Tech. They actually put a lawsuit out on a company, USI Tech. But what was so unfortunate was that USI Tech is still operating internationally, and so you can see there's a lot more movement internationally with the cryptos. You can see that it is a thing out there that internationally it is more invested in even the states right now. So very interesting position to see that the international market has been bigger for crypto, and you can start seeing American institutions getting in that market, and now Americans actually getting into that market more and more, or going back into that market. There are quite a few Americans left, and getting back into that market is once again been shaky. But you start seeing all these news feeds come through about how people are quoting Bitcoin back higher, and of course Bitcoin is the heavyweight in that industry, but you see a lot of the other ones, Bitcoin Cash. You still see the Ethereums. You still see many of the other coins that are in the top five type players. They're consistent without just having Bitcoin go up and down. They're still having cash pumped into them individually. So a good one. David Tepper is the latest hedge fund heavyweight to go into a private family office route. And so, if you all want to look into it, pretty sure this individual is probably, they say he's one of the largest hedge funds. Once again, he's listen to this. This is how you know you're good at what you do. When you're able to give back your clients the average rate of return since 1993, 25% or more. 25% or more. Where are you going to be able to invest your money and get 25% or more returns every single year? That's what this individual guarantees his clients for the most part. And you all can see that what traditionally what happens is obviously he's dealing with institutional investors. They can risk the upfront loss, but then they always end up gaining back every year and making it back every single year. And 25% profits are created every single year off of that. So great. If you want to look into it, well, we deleted it, but Tepper, Tpper, you all can look at it. He's a billionaire, and you're able to see how his structure looks, what he's talking about, and things of that nature. Uh, well, I think we saw something with rich, crazy Asians, but I gotta get into at least pull up that article. Yep, financial offices. Well, we talked about that. I think where Singapore actually is graduating at least two billionaires every month. I think we reported that it was actually more than that, but at least two billionaires every month. You know, that's actually what 24. No, they're actually producing more than that. They're producing billionaires every week in Singapore. Once again, that's smaller than the state of Texas. Very important to understand that Singapore is smaller than the state of Texas, but you know they have a lot of wealth in one particular area, and that's something that we're going to talk about tonight as well. Because what going private looks like is you surround yourself with the people that not only you want to become like, but the people that are like you. And I know that may be challenging for some people that come from challenged backgrounds, but that means that there has to be some form of movement in a direction in which you want to go. Where do you want to go? Because if you want to be there, you got to surround yourself around those people. Even when you're not there, do your best to get around those people, even though you might not have the living circumstance there. So definitely wanted to talk about that, surrounding yourself, and that's why Singapore was still a place to go and take advantage of and things of that nature. So today's episode is once again what going private really looks like. And so we can actually start it out. It's so crazy that King Khan literally just typed into the chat the exact way that I want to start out this conversation, which is what going private really looks like is you say the same thing every wealthy person says. I'm going to give all my money away to charity. Now let's look at this, ladies and gentlemen. She's giving away 37 billion. First of all, Robert Smith, a black billionaire, recently gave away 40 billion. So okay, wow, she giving away 37 billion. We'll be clear. I don't want to misquote. She's actually doing 37 billion. And then we had a black billionaire within the past month give away 40 million. At one point, the zeros just become a statement. You know what I mean? They become a statement. Oh, okay, well, who can give away more? But you got to remember, these are wealthy people. They don't give away anything for free. So giving away money to charity is an investment. Just like Robert Smith gave an endowment, she's giving endowments away too. She's not the wealthiest one in the room. You got Warren Buffett that sits in those rooms next to Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, is his ex-wife. She just basically got a divorce off of this guy, and they're going through the process. You all can see about this in public media, and you all can see that she's giving away 37 billion, roughly. They say all of that good stuff. But the thing about it is to see that she's able to do what all the greats are doing. You need us to go down the list. When Microsoft gives a distribution to Bill Gates, it doesn't go to him directly. It goes to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Do you hear the theme? See, that's what going private really looks like. You own nothing, but you still control the wealth. Who do you think's in control of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation? Let's go over to Zuckerberg real quick. Let's keep going through the list. Let's go through Mark Zuckerberg, the guy that you all are on his website almost every day, Facebook. When dividends are given out, they're given out to the Zuckerberg Foundation. Zuckerberg Foundation created an endowment with a hospital for sure in San Francisco, and that's an endowment. Zuckerberg continues to give money away. So in trustee training, when you learn that you make money giving it away, then you see why endowments are the way to go. This is why you see those investments made that way. And that's really, really important, is to see some of those basic examples. So one of the things that we really want to talk about, which is what going private really looks like, is enrolling yourself in trustee training. If you never involved yourself in this environment, you're going to have to get it in education. You're going to have to invest in your private education. It's a key word, private education. This one isn't subsidized. This one isn't subsidized by the government. This isn't the public education for discount. This is the private education for full price for generations to come, to never have to think about what they're going to eat or where they're going to live. That's what it is right now. So by that being the case, what it really looks like is investing in private education, private trustee training provided by the vault, or you finding that environment. If you don't go to the vault, then you can go check out an estate attorney or an estate planner on the public side. A lot of people want to know what it really looks like. You all can go at least interview somebody that deals with going private. You all can go Google that. Go to someone local. Interview as many as you can. Estate planners and things of that nature. What going private though does look like, per the vault, is enrolling in trustee training, or at least getting a private consultation. You gotta assess the needs of the family. Assess the family. Assess the business needs. There has to be an assessment done going into the private. What assets are in the public right now? What does the portfolio look like? That's the first step. The first step is getting a private consultation. The second step is you moving forward with the vault and trustee training, or you finding an estate planner, someone that can put you in a position where you own nothing, control everything. So the vault does that for sure, but of course there's always we don't want you to feel like options are completely limited. They are limited, because won't you go out and find a private trust consultant? Go out and find a private trust lawyer. You can Google that. Everybody likes Googling. Google private trust attorney. Because there's difference. There's public and private, and so we're talking about what it really looks like. See, everyone says, "Oh, I want to go private. I want to go private." But when are you gonna put your money where your mouth is and invest in your family education? At least with the consultation, and if not with the consultation, with the training. Whose family are you delaying on them going private? Not ours. You're delaying on yours. And I'm gonna share with you all what going private really looks like, because it doesn't look like a long process. It looks like a short process. Someone that's gonna commit what some people will call bite the bullet, or make the sacrifice for this generation so the next generation can have. What it really looks like is getting an assessment. What it really looks like is you enrolling in the training if you're going to be, a manager of going private, manager of the estate, being private. Whether it's a trustee, whether it's a minister, whether it's a board of executives, board of trustees, whatever it is, going private, private trustee training. That's what it looks like. You're in a training now. You're in a continuing education program for private, not for public. You're in a continuing education program. There's many of them out there, but some of them are income limited. That means you have to make a certain amount of money to even be in these environments. What does it really look like? Finding a mentor. Finding the private people that want to talk to you about it. Why? Because private is just that. Public and private don't mix. Thanks, Trust Valentino, for tuning in live. Do for self one. Appreciate you. A lot of people say, I'm going to get in trustee training. I'm going to prepare for it. Ladies and gentlemen, private trustee training is a first come, first served basis. See, this isn't the public. This isn't the everybody has one. You all know that. How many people have Rolls Royce? That's for a reason. You think the people that are riding around in a Rolls Royce don't have a trust? You think they own a $400,000 car that you can sue them off of? You think people aren't trying to get hit buy a Rolls Royce and sue the person that's driving it? That's why they have drivers for those cars. Then when you really go and talk to Rolls Royce, they don't call it a car. They call it an automobile. It's handmade. You hear the conversation? That's what going private really looks like. One of the highlight points, if you pull nothing away from this one, appreciate everybody for tuning in live. Hear this. What going private means is you're actually going to learn a new language. It's called legalese. You can look it up. It's you being able to have a conversation with attorneys. It's you being able to have conversations with an accountant. That's what it is. It's you having a cursory knowledge of what trust law, accounting. You having a good cursory knowledge of business. May not have a lot of experience. You think about someone that's rather young. We've had trustees come through and trustee training that were as young as 22 years old, maybe even younger. I think like 21, 22. Successful managing trustee on their own. That's the whole goal of the program. It's trustee training. It's not employees. It's trustee training. A trustee is similar to an independent contractor, so there's still not even a relationship as the trustee to the trust that in trustee training that we say, hey, put yourself in a position where you can make money. That's not the case. It's an independent contractor. There's no W-2. That's what going private really looks like. Why? Because you're dealing in contracts. Isn't contract law private law? That's what private looks like. Dealing in contracts. Knowing that there's a difference between business and personal. And keeping it always very clear. Business, not personal. That's the difference of what going private really looks like. We get back to this language thing. Not having a Black's Law Dictionary. Gotta have a Black's Law Dictionary. So, you think about that. You gotta learn a language. Why weren't you taught finances in school? Why weren't you taught the law in school? Because the system is set up that way. That's what going private looks like. It's being in an environment where you can be around other people that are private. The one reason why at the Vault we created a private community of trustees with the workshops and the training is because we knew that when people get into the private lifestyle, they always going to get into a position where they don't know enough people around them. You know, trustees asked recently, and people consultations asked recently, well, you know, I don't really know where those people are in my local area, and may have a challenge meeting them, and don't really see them. You know, it's the haves and the have-nots. Well, which one are you? And you got to be around who you are like. That's what going private really means. You might have to move. Trust Christian, you're probably gonna have to move. We just talked about Singapore. We just talked about an environment where they're raising billionaires. What are they doing in the United States? What are they doing in your state? How many millionaires are they producing in your public school system that you're sending your children to, that you went to school with? How many millionaires are they creating in that system? What's the purpose of working if you're not going to have a quality of life, as I talked to someone earlier today? It's about the quality of life. You want us to go through the stats of how much it costs to live in America? In Chicago, which we're not going to go there in Chicago today. We'll just say that it's not the cheapest place to live. Detroit, still not one of the cheapest places to live. New York, not the cheapest place to live. LA, not the cheapest place to live. I mean, we can go through the list of cities, major cities that are not cheap to live. And you better have more than, what do they call that? The average income. That's for America. Not for the state or the county, for America. What going private really looks like means you don't even have a social media page. What going private looks like means you might have to change your cell phone number. It really does mean that. It means that you got to leave some people behind. Why? Because you can't have the same conversation no more. We run into this for years. The Vault, you're not the first person to say, my friends, the people that I thought were my friends, guess what? I can't talk to them about the private. Why? Because they're not going private. Oh, okay. Well, now you see. You might want to surround yourself around more private people. Well, I don't know where they are. Well, when you have conversations in the vault, you learn where those environments are. Traditionally, it's what? Business, not personal. So if the friends just want to kick it, it's not the environment. The business environments are going to be where you see people have assets that they actually have to protect. They have livelihoods. They have lineages that they're looking to protect. What happens is people don't want to really go private. They want the benefits of the private, but they still want to be in the public. They want to be a public personality. So what does a public personality looks like? It looks like Zuckerberg. That's what it looks like. Was aimed to be one of the richest people in the world. Changed that up. Zuckerberg Foundation. Now he's good. You obviously see Bezos with the wife looking to take half the wealth and give it away to charity. It's the same exact thing. So what did they do first? Did they go private first? Before they really made some of the moves that they made? And just to let you know, a lot of these individuals, a lot of these people, they may have built it, publicly, but when you look into a lot of these companies, they were invested in through private equity, private venture capitalists. So when you see them going private more formally, such as Google, ladies and gentlemen, Google just changed its ticker on the market, the stock symbol. Google the ticker has changed because they're under new management. They're private. They've been private, but do you know about Alphabet A? Okay, some people do. Do you know about Alphabet B? A smaller group of people. What about Alphabet C? Wow. Well, what do you mean? They got 3 different companies and then they call it A, B, and C, and then what are they doing with it? Some of them are issuing common stock. Some of them have issued private. Oh, okay. Asset protection through asset separation. Correct. But what about Google? Is Google private? Well, once again, we just mentioned Alphabet is in control of them. Who owns Alphabet? Do you know? Do you know the owners of Alphabet? No, but you do know the CEOs of Google. You know the CEO of YouTube. You know the managing board member of Google Pay gets a completely different salary, completely different environment than the Google CEO and the YouTube CEO and all the other Google Hangout CEO. There's different board members over different departments. Diversification through separation. What does it look like? Own nothing, control everything. It's so interesting. People say, I want to go private, but they don't think about where else can I Google this? Can I go on the internet and find this information? Not really. Going private means you spend some time in the law library. We'll give you that gem. If you do nothing else, if you never hear the vault ever again, everything that you traditionally need is going to be inside of a law library. Law libraries are free sometimes. In most states, they're free in the county that you're in, but there are also colleges that have law libraries you all can check out. The law library. The people that don't go private, they don't want to go to the law library. We talked to an entrepreneur earlier today. Entrepreneur doesn't want to learn anything new. That's the mark of someone that just doesn't understand. They've let go of the student mentality. Oh, no, I don't want to sit here and learn something all day. Okay, well, what are you going to do? You're going to delegate those responsibilities out? And still, you're not going to take 8 hours to know what someone's going to spend 60 or 40 hours a week doing for you? You're not going to take 8 hours to invest 8 hours to know what someone's supposed to do for 60 hours and not rip you off or do a half job. That's what going private looks like. It's a constant investment in student mentality. Going private means you surround yourself with the people that speak that same language by any means necessary, and you do it as fast as possible. One of the things we always point out is, I'll share a story. I remember first connecting with the mentors, and I just knew it was golden. I knew it was golden. I sat there. I said, "Man, this is what people." They live their whole life for. You have to even make a certain amount of money to even deal in trust and foundations and different entities and things of that nature. And to hear that, and then you get to the point where you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, I'm learning this. How long is it going to take for me to learn to where I don't need to be dependent upon him as a trustee? And then you sit there and you say, okay, you know what? I'm learning it. I'm learning at a good speed. These guys are pretty transparent because they really wanted to help people out. They really wanted to help families preserve, pass on from one generation to the next. You think about how do you get around the wealth inequality, the wealth disparagement. You've had family members in one country for generations, but no one's carrying anything from one generation to the next. That's how you start over at zero every generation. If you start over at zero every generation, you obviously can see that the ones that saved from one generation to the next, it doesn't even matter if it was one generation, they have 30 or 40 working years of equity in their family that they pass along from one generation to the next. Of course you're behind. Of course your children are behind. If you're not, if your parents, grandparents, great grandparents didn't pass anything along, whether it was a minimal investment, it could be or a minimal amount, it could be $10,000, it could be $5,000, it could be $500. You hear so many people say I started from nothing. But that's not a pride thing. That's just the reality. And then you have people such as the President of the United States that walks into, Donald Trump walks into a situation where his dad gave him capital. Who's going to knock that? But at the same time, he didn't squander it. So he's not a part of the decrepit second generation that actually, and traditionally is called the first generation after you give it to the next gen. And then the second gen is traditionally going to be called your grandchildren. But in his case, him still being the first gen off his dad, you can see completely he didn't squander it. He actually made it the President of the United States. And then you see his children, they were right there by his side. All of them look like they're in the same ring. What? What do you mean? He didn't send his children to go to school for communications? He didn't send his children to go to school for psychology? He didn't send his children to go to school for all these different type of things that you can get a degree in? Esthetician? He didn't send them. No. You're going to business school. You're going to manage the family real estate, the family business. Not to judge and say, whether he raised good children or not. Clearly, we can see that they're all in what? Business. So like father, like children. But it was also from his dad to him. So as you all can see, it's a theme. That's what private looks like. You create a family last name that does the same exact thing. When you look at Hilton, you're not just looking at Hilton for hotels. You know that Paris has expanded the brand into women's products. They took the name and they stayed in the same field. Entrepreneurship. You don't see a Hilton working a job. That's what going private looks like. It's an estate. It's a lineage of the same quality of work. It's integrity for the family name. People aren't ashamed of their family last name. They actually have pride in it now because their parents gave them something to be proud of. That's what going private looks like. Going private looks like you giving your children something to be proud of. The next generation something to be proud of. We sit in front of a insurance agent the other day, and they were talking about giving away endowments, and we were talking about how an individual or person can take out a policy on themselves and make the beneficiary some charitable organization, and that would be an endowment. I say, think about that. Who would not want their last name to be on the side of a YMCA locally or a Boys and Girls Club locally, to provide children with a place to go work out, to attack obesity, to be able to give them an opportunity to have a place to go play instead of it being in a street, to actually go to a facility? And that comes from you having a policy on you, but the beneficiary is the local community rec center. Those things can be set up, but why don't you know about them? Why aren't they done? Because people don't know how to go private. They don't know how to perpetuate wealth from one generation to the next. They know how to go 2 weeks in the paycheck. Going private looks like you don't know how much time you're going to be able to extract private information from what you would call public sources, such as this one with the vault. You don't know how long that's going to be. And sitting around, a partner earlier today said things are changing and you need to act like you know. And that just means that you got to get it while you can. You're in an environment, when you talk about it in the private, that it moves very quickly. Wealth grows very quickly in the private, and in turn, when you move when you get to certain points, you have to move a certain way. You're not going to be walking through certain airports anymore because you're in private aviation. You're not going to be driving once again anymore because you're in private, private capacity. People contact the vault. Oh man, right to travel, and I have the right to travel. Well, you got a driver's license. It sounds like you want to be licensed to be on the road. But if you're private, you're not in behind a wheel. That's a commercial position. That's why it has a license. Now, commercial is public. That's not private. So as you can see, if you're in that position, then that's what? Public. Well, I have a right. Hey, sounds good. Sounds good. That's still a commercial vehicle. It's registered with a commercial enterprise on the public side. Oh man, but took that car and we put it in a trust, and okay, sure. You just keep going down the rabbit hole of, we could ask more questions. Well, how was the trust created? Who created the trust? Blah blah blah, public or private, things of that nature. What going private really looks like means you have a private team, a lawyer, an accountant, maybe a financial advisor with insurance. This is a team building sport in the private. This isn't the public. This isn't a one-man army in the public. In the private. What going private means, you build a team. Oh yeah. You won't survive. You can't do it all. You have to have other people in place. That's why trustee trainers are around, is to solidify yourself with successor trustees. Successor trustees are who you're thinking about immediately. That's what going private looks like. You're finding someone to replace you. So with trustee training, we've offered it, and we never made promises, because everything has a goal. It was to grow. So to find those institutional investors, to find those trustees that can be in those positions to make those moves, the greater impact comes from you growing, not from you staying stagnant, not from what you think is called standing still. There is no standing still. The earth's still moving. There is no standing still. The earth is shifting beneath your feet. So people delay and they say, oh, I'll come back in 2 months. They say, oh, I'm going to come back. Okay. And in turn, when it's not available, they're like, oh man. It's the same thing with Cornell in the webinar when we talked about that $300 webinar. And people, oh, we'll come back later. Oh, okay. So the investment into your future for $300, that was too expensive. But for Memorial Day, we'll show you had a grand old time traveling, having fun with the family. So Macy's, Walmart, grocery stores, they got the $300. Then we go back to trustee training. Yep, someone got that money. That was rent money. Had to pay that, right? Had to pay it. And what we see is just a discouragement of savings. What going private really means, what it really looks like is savings turning into an investment. But truly actually giving returns. People don't want to save because they say, why am I going to stake it in a bank account that's giving 0.002%, 0.07%? Why? And we say why as well. So you all can see that trustee training is imperative. But at the end of the day, not everybody wants to go private, because it involves work. It involves you putting in the extra hours outside of what you're already putting in, whether it's 40 hours a week on a job or 40 hours a week on a business, Why? Because it's the private education. You gotta get in student mode. You gotta go back to school. You gotta learn some things new. Gotta learn a new language. Gotta learn how to operate in a specific fashion. Does the vault come in and train those family offices? Of course. Train means you learn something, though. Train means you do it at one point. Train doesn't mean you become dependent. Training means what going private looks like means you take advantage of the opportunities when they come in front of you. Specifically the ones that you know that are righteous. Traditionally. Got to use your senses. You got to be keenly aware. You got to be sharp. There's no time to be missing a step. What going private really looks like. We talked to a lawyer. We always talk to lawyers, and told this one lawyer a while back, and he said, yeah, that's the issue. Had a client on the line, actually. So the lawyer was sitting there with their client, said, well, talking to the client, but in response to the question that I possibly had was, most of the clients don't want to divest themselves of assets. They want to own everything. That was a quote. I said, oh, okay. Well, we'll hear from you when we hear from you. Ownership incurs liability. You know the liabilities, but they incur them. So, what going private looks like is you looking like the examples we talked about at the beginning of the post. You're moving in a position where your name is able to stand the test of time. The Rockefeller name, the Carnegie name. Most people have gone to schools that have endowments with Rockefeller. When people congratulate Robert Smith for what he did at Morehouse University, he's only following the footsteps of any great private equity investor. He did the same thing Rockefeller did. Rockefeller still to this day has one of the largest endowment funds with Morehouse University. He just followed the footsteps. As Rockefeller has endowments with Harvard. You think Robert Smith doesn't? You follow the footsteps of the people that you want to be like, the people that you associate with. He's in private equity. They invest privately. The endowments are private. They're not based off of your children's tuition to pay for the class. Clearly, he absolved people's debt or gave a grant because of that. We can go through the list of T. Boone Pickens giving away $3 billion. We can go through Asian investors giving billions of dollars to colleges in the United States. Asian studies. It's not paid for by the state for the college. That's paid through the family. Endowments. Whether that's even on a local level, I think some people might know the name LeBron James and how he created an endowment with his foundation with the city of Akron. So it wasn't a full endowment. It was a partial endowment with the city to actually create the school. That's why it's still a public school. That's why it's not a private school. This is a public school. It has relations with the city of Akron. Teaching what? Children to go to school and get a good job, work hard, try to be their best, and shoot a basketball like LeBron. Where's the financial literacy? Where's the law education to help athletes not get ripped out of contracts? He may have good lawyers. He may have a good team around him, but to just throw money at a problem, as you all know, this is why people have a big issue with charity, because people think people are throwing money at problems. That's what they're doing, though. You throw money at a problem out of ignorance because it's truly an investment. It's not to do what people say it is on the outside superficially. It's an investment. It is an investment. It's into their education. Children need to learn how to read and write. What happened to if they're going to play basketball? How do you know how to select a good lawyer if you come from an area where your family's not surrounded by lawyers? How do you have a good agent? When do you pick a good agent? You pick a good agent because they're the first ones to your door to say, hey, I can help you get the $1 million deal. Is that how they're picked? Are they picked off of their legal merit? Are they picked off the agency? How are they picked? How do you pick a good accountant in business? We sit in front of lawyers, ladies and gentlemen, they got 4-year degrees. They still don't even know about an enrolled agent. We sit in front of those people. Enrolled agents are people that are just very good at what they do. I mean, we have to give them their credit. Obviously, they've continued their education. That's what going private is surrounding yourself by these people. There's no, so once again, we go back to that school. Where's the financial literacy? And it's not to say that it's not being taught, but what level are you playing at to be taught that? There's a difference between a business degree from Wharton and a business degree from, okay, we know that there's a bunch of alma maters, but we know that Wharton, we'll talk about Ivy League schools. We'll just classify Ivy League. Why do they call it Ivy League? Is the education that much better? Who do you think is going to get picked on the job resume? If you got MIT, you think if you have Brown University or Cornell University or Harvard on your document, you might not get picked first? You might not have the network or the relationships in those environments at elite levels in business to be in those environments to get picked first? Yes. So there is a difference. Big difference. Rick says there's a foundation, just a different type of trust. Well, we always say a foundation, when you look at it, foundation is supposed to be charity. So it's a different type of trust. There's many different types of trust that can be labeled as a foundation. But there's also public foundations in there. You guys can look. We always point those out, that a lot of athletes, a lot of actors have the LLC, S Corp, C Corp route. Do for self says environment plus thought equals mindset. Definitely got to get in a different environment so you can change your thoughts. What are your thoughts? Are you thinking about protecting yourself every day, making sure that you're not dealing with some craziness, or are you in a safe environment that allows you to think creatively? Sometimes it's very challenging for certain groups of people to think creatively because they're in a hostile environment. To be completely honest, hostile. What most people will never experience in their life. Hostile could be hostile is a very interesting term, because hostile environment is experiencing harsh racism. That's a hostile environment. You wanted to put yourself in a great environment, but you're experiencing racism. You're experiencing people discriminating against you. That's hostile environments. It's how can you maneuver an environment where you're having to deal with that? And a lot of people say you got to overlook it, but that's the environment you're in. We're talking about the environment plus the thought. The thoughts are to be successful. The environment, it matters. If you're not in that environment, some people are in an environment where if you do become successful at a sport or some type of profession, well, won't you give back to all of us? That's a hostile environment. That's called entitlement mentality. Entitlement mentality is a hostile environment. Somebody says, give me something because you got more, and they can see it. That's why you go private. Going private looks like, guess what? I don't have any money. I don't own anything. But I do control it. That's what going private looks like. Dealing with those different adversities. Definitely excited about doing this episode. Really wanted to talk to you all about that. Going private, I think we covered the relationships, we covered the conversation, the language, moving around, even different environments, different locations. We talked about that. Peace to everybody for tuning in live. If you all want to type into the chat a question, feel free. We always appreciate the live comments and the shout outs and everything. But definitely want to talk about what going private looks like. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I got a 98 number. That doesn't mean, what does that mean? You got an EIN number. Then you get these people that are sitting over the internet. They're going private. They're listening to somebody on some public platform that doesn't even want to shake their hand. These people are trying to hide behind a daggone computer screen so you never meet them. That's not at the vault. The vault does the workshops. The vault deals with the clients. It's family. It's business. Of course you have to meet the families. You're dealing with one of the two most sensitive subjects, money and family. So of course you meet the families. What going private really looks like is dealing with someone like that face to face. That's what going private looks like. It's not dealing with people through the internet trying to sell you some internet package so you can get your sovereignty. So you can get 3 years down the path and say, man, I was dealing with this UCC stuff, but I don't know what to do. Man, I thought I was going to have to follow UCC. I was going to get my birth certificate authenticated and I'm going to be free. Freedom isn't free. You want me to say it again? Freedom isn't free. So you authenticating your birth certificate, that doesn't make you look like you're going private. That's a public document. The birth certificate is a public document, and somebody says, I'm going private because I authenticated it. You want to talk about the geniuses that set that up? Are they private talking about authenticating a public document? Oh, I took the birth certificate and then I put it in a trust. Okay. So you took the document did you even create that? Do you own it? Let's talk. You own it? Nah, you control it though. Yeah. You took it. You took it out of your hand. Then you put it into a trust that you created. Sounds revocable. Sounds domestic. But let's talk about it. Man. Someone says, oh yeah, got the birth certificate in the trust. What do I do now? Doesn't it look like I'm going private? I'm putting the birth certificate in the trust. Okay. You want to keep going deeper? All right. So once we get that set up, then we can get rid of some what they call them debts and discharge. All these different terms you all hear. If you're in that space, we're talking to those people that hear that space. We want to address what going private really looks like, because there's quite a few people that think that going private is birth certificate in a trust. No. Got a non-A number. No actual indenture. Still hunting and searching for an indenture. Or someone sold you an indenture through the internet. Yep. That doesn't look like you're going private. What going private really looks like is you investing in your private education with the vault sooner than later. The training was for trustees, not for everybody. People in the public are beneficiaries. That's why charity is set up for what? The benefit of the beneficiaries. Who's the beneficiaries? The public. So when people say, oh, gotta donate to the vault, gotta contribute, yeah, it's gonna be more focused towards the youth, providing forms of those type of educations and tools that are necessary to raise up the next generation. Because there's so many people say, I'll call you back later, like they had an option. Going private does not look like you're exploring more options. Clearly there's a difference between public and private. What going private really looks like is you cleaning up your speech. We sat in front of someone today that said, we want you to teach us the slangs of today. Teach us the slangs of the day. What are the kids saying? They don't say cool anymore. What do they say? Going private, you don't care. You're focused on learning the real language. Why? Because you've been ripped off and duped about the language that you're speaking. You think compel means that there's an option. It's not. Have never been taught anything about a business law, never been taught anything about true accounting law, but you got a business and you're dealing with money. But a person wants to know the slang. Teach me the slangs of today. That's public. Private, you learn that there's four. Let's go through the four definitions. You got a legal definition. You got a spiritual definition, because words have spiritual meanings. You got a Webster's dictionary. And then you got the slang. I'll repeat those again. You got the legal definition, because we're living in a world that's constrained through business constraints. It's never been personal, it's business. So that's the legal dictionary. Black's Law Dictionary, to be precise, or Bouvier's dictionary. Then you get into the spiritual meaning of a word. Every word has a spirit. Every word. We know the difference between a door and a chair. We know the difference between a human and a dog. That's a spiritual definition. But people have turned it into a scientific breakdown. But spiritual, nonetheless, because there's an energy with it. Love has a spirit. There's a spiritual definition. Then we get into the colloquial, or the Webster's. It's general public terms. Cool. Cool could mean you're cooling down, or cool means you're in a happy state. Then we get into, or you can look at the Webster definition. Then you get into the slang. Cool could just stand for how you doing today. Cool. Slang. What going private looks like means you put those definitions and priorities in order. So, we're going to go through some of the questions here on the chat. Thanks, Trey Stone, for tuning in live. Barry Parker. It's going great, Barry. He said, how's your currency trading go? It's more than just that, man. I mean, yeah, Barry. You can create your own certificate of trust for you and your family members. I mean, that's a very general thing to say, but, you know, that's like saying, did you go talk to an attorney about that publicly? Rick says, I used to work high-end security out of the military. You are right, the private side of the airport is a world of difference from the public side. The private side, you don't even walk through TSA. Listen, they have a dog waiting for public people because you can't afford, because you didn't put in the work, you didn't get the right tools. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't drill when you have to use the hammer, and you can't hammer when you have to use the drill. There's different tools. So if you're in a vehicle, LLC, S Corp, C Corp on business structures per the IRS website, what else is there to know? You're driving a Honda, Toyota, a Lexus. The people that are higher income brackets, there's a little bit different cars, which means a different vehicle, which also means different level of protections, which means higher integrity, higher quality of service. What going private really looks like means, yeah, definitely your lifestyle changes. It's a lifestyle change. You're not public anymore. Completely 360. Everything that you think is the way to make it right now, it's going to look different. You're going to be in a different circle. You're going to move a different way. Your appearance might look different. Wow, you don't have time to be confused with a public person? Let's like to say, private side of the airport. You don't get pat down on the private side. You walk and get on the airplane. Wow, you can do that? Yeah. You can just walk into a side door of the airport where the private jets are fueling. Really? Yeah. What's going private really looks like is you being okay with people not appreciating who you are anymore because you've chosen to live a different life. You have to be okay with that. What going private means you burned the bridges. You said, I will never go back to the public. That's what private really looks like. See, private isn't a temporary thing. This is the one environment you don't jump into part-time with the part-time entrepreneurs. It's so sad that they have people on the internet marketing that you should be a part-time entrepreneur. We're not talking about a transition. That's fair. They're actually talking about living that way. Lifestyle. Part-time. Something that has no income maximum, you're doing it part-time. But you rather stay at a job that has an income maximum. And there's a for sure income maximum. Because you want to know how you have an income maximum? Go ask the boss after you get your next raise. The next day after that, can you get another raise? And you'll find out quickly and shortly thereafter that raises, the income limit is there. There's an income limit. That's not for the case for entrepreneurs. What going private really looks like is you being able to be a captain of the ship. It's you being willing to say, I know that I am weak at managing money, so I need a money manager around me. I need to go beseech someone that is good at managing money, and I need to give them whatever they ask for so I can never have to think about managing money ever again. How incredible is that? But instead, public schools said, hey, you're not even going to even know how to deal with balancing a checkbook, so hey, go ahead, work hard, keep working, keep working, keep working. Never think about your weakness and actually fulfilling that need. But guess what? When it's time to come around to do the reports for the company, who do you go to? You actually go to a professional to do that, an accountant. You go to the professionals. The bad entrepreneurs are only trying to go to the professionals when they feel like they need them. You want to go to the professionals because you want to have good professionals around you. That's what going private really looks like. You beseech the talent before you need it. It's like a draft. Aren't you drafting your team? What does your team look like right now? Going private is a constant self-assessment. What going private is you get out of your comfort zone. What going private means, you have to read. We're going to say this one a few times. Going private really looks like you have to read. Oh, wow, read? I'm used to skimming. We live in a generation of skimmers. Or scrollers. You read 140 characters, your eyes are tired, your brain is tired. So what? Guess what? I can't read a book in my free time. I gotta watch Game of Thrones. I waited 2 years for it. Okay. I know everything about the sporting statistics, but still don't know how to manage the money that we're bringing in. Me and the wife, we're bringing in over 100 each. We still don't know how to manage it. We're not going to talk about the ones that are making 50 and 25K. We're going to talk about the doctors and the lawyers that still come to the vault and say, I'm a doctor or lawyer, still can't manage the capital. Help me. Okay, we can do that. There's still going to have to be some learning on your part. There's going to be a couple readings that you're going to have to do. Can you do a little bit of reading? Not even just a little bit. Can you just read? You're going to read for the rest of your life. Hopefully that doesn't become your handicap. There are people in parts of the world that wish they could read. And now you have a group of people, public, they don't know if they want to read. They don't know if they can read. Why? Because they don't understand private is private and public is public. Oh, you know what? We'll come back to the vault later. We're going to Google our way to this one. We're going to Google our way publicly to the private solutions. We don't want to pay to play. We don't want to believe that it takes money to make money. When you're in the private, money makes money. That's investing, right? That's private equity, right? That's what going private really looks like. Is you focus on making money, you're a little truce. That's why people say I have money. Well, if you have money, why isn't the money working for you? Well, I wasn't taught that in public school. And then what little bit I was taught, I was say, I'm going to put it in a savings account, or I'm going to put it in a money market account, I'm going to put it in a CD. I'm going to give it to a financial advisor. He's going to put it in the stock market. I'm going to still be mad at he knows more than I do, but I make more than he does. Really? So why isn't he investing his capital like you? Is he even invested in those assets like you are? No. Well, he doesn't have enough money. Okay. That's what going private really looks like. We'll end that conversation there. What going private looks like means you're not afraid to look at the bank account every day. You're a money manager. You're an asset manager. Okay, you manage the assets. You gotta, what are you gonna take a day off from managing assets? That's what you're doing right now. Don't you manage the car payment? Don't you manage the house payment? Don't you manage the grocery bill? Those are assets to the family. You gotta eat. Food is an asset. Clothing is an asset. Housing is an asset. Transportation is an asset. Even though everybody would like to say, oh, your car isn't an asset. Well, how are you getting capital? Are you sitting in your house? Or are you going out and doing something? Either way, it can be an asset. I was looking at so many real estate people. We look at so many people in real estate. Sometimes some of them know the people that actually own some of the largest properties that we've ever dealt with. Their business is inside of a house, but they have a ton of commercial property. And they're not even in a commercial property renting out their own commercial space. They're actually in a house doing real estate out of a house. How old school is that? That's what going private really looks like. Going private means you become debt free. That's what going private looks like. Personally, own nothing, control everything. What are you owning debt? Want to take pride in debt that people really don't want to pay? That they need the government now to give them a pass for a free education? That's not going private. Let me look at some more questions and comment. Appreciate you all. We're going pretty long. We always appreciate you all. That's why a written document is spiritual, because it puts your spirit and your thought and your will and energy into it completely. And so many people don't even think about that definition. The words that they say. What about truck drivers that have a CDL to make a living? What about them? Going private means that we encounter. I mean, we have a bunch of trustees that are truck drivers. They don't own a truck. They are just obviously a trustee over the property, or they are what is that? They're they don't own anything, control everything. CDLs, continuing education, can be paid for by the company that's quote unquote we don't call it employing, but contracting you. It took a whole year, and then they negotiated 20% raise in my job, and people were happy about it. Good one, Joseph. That was a good one. Definitely people are excited about that. Everyone needs a private library at home, for sure. Definitely inquiring. It's so interesting just getting to a point in life where you just buy books and you don't even read them right away. You just sit them on a shelf for a future date. And it's so awesome to know that if you ever get bored, then you're never bored. You're in a constant learning mode. You're in constant go mode. Why? Because how long can you sit at home without having to do anything? You don't have to pick up the phone. You don't have to walk out the house. Your lifestyle won't be affected. That's what going private really looks like. You don't have to leave the house. Your groceries get delivered. There's someone that comes and makes the food for you. Someone that takes out the trash. That's what going private looks like. And a lot of people don't want that. They want to. It sounds like a celebrity almost, because celebrities don't leave the house. They can't really go to public places like that anymore. But as you all can see, that's why they have a public personality and then they have a private life. They've learned how to separate their business wealth from their family wealth. Put everything in a trust. That's always a good comment. Have a private dwelling. Sure. Convenient, low overhead, virtual business, working out of the house. We hear so much of that, working out of the house, stuff, and we just encourage people to, we love the internet. We appreciate the reach that we have over the internet, but just still being able to reach out and touch people face to, hand to hand, and look people in their eyeballs and tell them, hey, I'm just real like you. It's always a big deal for the vault. Always has been, always will be. Trust Christian always appreciates that, because that's what it's all about. It's about creating real, lasting relationships. Sometimes relationships come and go in business. You being able to deal with the people quitting on you. That's what going private really looks like. A lot of people, no one hires anybody to say, I'm going to have to fire somebody. But sometimes in the private, you got to fire people. You got to fire relationships. And that's not something anybody wants to do. But some people, they have a less of a care about doing it. And some people, such as myself, is like, oh man, never want to have to get rid of anybody. But in all actuality, it shows what's your education like. It's business. It's not personal. They might have to go. It's not based off of you. It's based off the contract. The contract states, we can't have a person that's not incompetent. It says it needs someone competent. It needs someone that can get the job done. It needs someone that doesn't want to disclose life situations that they're going through. This is a part of being part of a family trust business or a family business. Everyone involved is accountable. It's not personal, right? It's business. Okay, so you have no problem with letting people know, hey, going through this, and but I'm still here to serve. I'm still here to support you. Everybody has to go through life situations. But at the end of the day, there's a focus on being entrenched with the family. Because guess what? The family is going to take care of everything. How powerful is it when your grandmother, she can't even afford money for her cataracts, and you're able, or the family trust is able to provide, because you've been able to have something in place that says, okay, if family needs to be taken care of on the medical side, that this entity out here, this trust out here, this trust fund is available for family members to have medical needs. You all come through the vault, you can learn how to make that a tax deduction. You all know you can, whether that's gifts to people, and you all know that, you know, dealing with medical needs, you know, you're able to do that. You all know that. You can talk to the attorneys about it. You can talk to the accountants about it. It's always there available. It's raised public and it's hidden right in plain sight. But not asking the right questions. What about what do they call it? A charitable remainder trust? See how we keep going through different entities. So how do you know which one to pick? That's why you come to the vault and you don't waste your time trying to figure it out on your own. What going private really looks like means you are willing to trust someone with your wife in the same room, with your husband in the same room, with your life. That's what going private looks like. You start establishing those type of relationships. You hone in on having those type of relationships. Because trust is about what? Trust. But how many people in your life do you trust with your partner? With your children? Over your children's estate? Or your successive generation? We're talking about they're not going to lose it. They're actually going to be competent to hold it down. And they do. But what about the ones that you can't trust? Might want to get around the ones that you can. We always go back to those things. Just the basics, fundamentals. Trustee Training has been one of the best programs out there for years now. But it has to evolve. It's time to go to the next level. Way too many people are playing the sidelines. They're not even in the game. They're taking notes on the sideline of how to play the game. Ladies and gentlemen, once you go private, you don't go back. You know the rules. But once you're in it, you're not going to go back. So what is the point of playing the sideline? That's what going private really looks like. You stop playing the sideline. You stop negotiating the price of success and freedom. Appreciate you all for tuning in live or listening to replay. We cover do for self one. With the question that you have is, can you do an episode about trust protector? We talk about trusteeship all the time. A trustee is a trust protector. But when you're not in trustee training, just hearing that term arbitrarily thrown out there, it sounds cool. A trust protector. What's the purpose of talking about a protector when you don't even know trusteeship? You know, or the other positions that truly are in control. Beneficiaries have no control. And in private trustee training, we cover that. We talk about those different things, you know, people you're going to encounter. We appreciate you all for reaching out to Trustee Training. Christian at trustchristian.com. It's always been a limited time edition. I love editions. I love limited things. The Vault's always loved those things. The Vault has never made it a point to do the same episode twice, ever. And we're not going to start. We're going to focus on putting out new content, fresh content that covers the subject matter that we talk about traditionally: business, trust, or charity, dealing with the foundations. We always talk about that, and we're going to stick to that. But it has to evolve, because so many people want to see what it looks like. What does the private look like? We share with you example after example after example after example, and we're going to go through in trustee training and share example after example after example. And then you're going to have to ask yourself the question: the creator that created you, did the flesh that they create and the brain that the creator created you with, did they make you less competent than someone else? Such as a Henry Ford, who didn't graduate from high school. Such as a Rockefeller, who did not graduate from high school. From an Andrew Carnegie, who did not graduate from a high school. And the list goes on of people that did not graduate high school. or didn't graduate from college. Because, and once we got past the 50s, 1950, everything was about getting a college degree. And then there's many successful people that don't even have a college degree. Investing in the private education. Every time we can show you public companies, private companies. Appreciate you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to reach out to us at Christian@trustchristian.com for Trustee Training, or just to get that consultation. Make sure you got your needs met. But we do appreciate you all. We just wanted to let you know what going private really looks like today. It's a big deal. A lot of people ask us. A lot of people don't know what their life is going to be like, but it's going to change. It's going to be on, not to control everything.